Hey everybody, this is Volen in Pursuit of Art. I want to talk to you guys today about something that I think is indispensable in setting up a long term practice, something you can stick to, and also something that will make you effective over the long term. At the same time, though, I think that all of us really suck at it, and I personally definitely am not good at it, even though I'm actually trying to practice it even now as I'm making this video, as I'm trying to define what I'm really going to talk to you about today. I'm actually practicing it now. I say that we're not very good at it because personally, especially when I'm doing mentorships, when I'm in a session with a person, 10 times out of 10 so far, if I give someone a choice between something that's more impressive, more complex versus simpler, regardless of if they've ever done that before, they'll jump on the more complex one. They'll jump on the harder one. And that right there is really the time when a series of unfortunate events will just fall out. It's just inevitable. It will never go well. If you've never done something before, if you're just starting out and you pick the harder thing to do, it may sound nobler. It may sound like you're doing extra work, you're getting the hard thing done, but really, unfortunately, it's a setup for failure. So I didn't even think about this. I couldn't even think in those terms until a couple of years ago when I read this book by Jim Collins. I think it was in Good to Great. I'm not too sure, but the concept in there was about the 20-mile march. The 20-mile march. That's what it was called. So it was two expeditions that set out from the same place, but they had different strategies. One expedition would travel 20 miles per day only. In good weather, they will do 20 miles. In bad weather, it will be difficult but achievable. So daily, they would do a certain amount of work. And that's it. If conditions were great, they weren't tempted by that and tried to stretch and do more and overreach. And if conditions were bad, they could just get it in with some effort. Now, the other expedition, when things were going well, they would go all out. They would go 20, 40, 60 miles. And then when the weather was bad, they would stay in. Now, not only did they do that, so they were inconsistent, but also what happened is that overstretching and overreaching, trying to go that extra step all the time, it actually set them up for some pretty devastating and risky scenarios because they will be tired from having worked way too much on the good days, and then when a blizzard would hit or something bad would happen, they will be completely unprepared and they would be exhausted. They would have nothing left in the tank, resource gone. So they were actually putting themselves in danger. Whereas the other expedition, it may not have seemed that they were doing anything impressive, but they were being very consistent. They demanded effort every day. It wasn't heroic effort. It wasn't anything that you would necessarily look at and like, just whatever. That's it. You wouldn't have anything to talk about. Just, yeah, it was a good day. Just walked a few hours and rested. That's basically it. Whereas the other guys, they were going for it. Every day they were going hard. They would probably feel pretty good on the good days. And on the bad days, they would probably feel good about the good days that they had before. So they could justify in their minds why they weren't doing too much on that day. The consistent group made it first by a huge stretch. And in fact, second group, I probably should have looked this up, but I think they all died. Maybe there were a couple exceptions, but I think that expedition did not go well at all for anyone involved. So what I'm going to talk to you guys today in this video and how this applies, it applies to art, it applies to exercise, it applies to really everything that you're trying to establish as a long-term goal that you're going for. Consistency over intensity, definitely. Like for me, this is a key concept. I would rather do something every single day for 15 minutes than to just do it once for 5 hours. It doesn't work. Your brain, first of all, requires spaced repetition. Your brain doesn't just look at something once and get it. That's one of the illusions that we have, is that as soon as you kind of look at something and intellectually grasp it, that you have it. No, you don't. There's a big gap between action and theory. And that gap gets filled with daily practice. This is the only way that you can bridge it. Now, the discipline of doing less and how that applies, and what I mean by it is that people will always, or let's say people will very often pick something that looks impressive or is very difficult, especially if they haven't done it before. So when a beginner looks at something, they actually wouldn't have a good idea of what's hard and what's not, because they just don't have that experience. And some of the first studies that I was doing, some of my first master studies, I jumped into those having no idea what I was doing and if it's difficult or not. I just thought, hey, you know what, this looks kind of simple. I remember looking at Jean Leon Jerome's work, and I would look at, the textures, I would look at the figures, I would look at the shapes, and I would think like, well, that seems very simple. I should probably do that. And then 30 days later, I'm still struggling with like a corner of the thing and realizing that, hey, I'm really misapprehending what's going on here. I'm really not understanding the actual difficulty of this thing that I'm doing. So as a beginner, it's always difficult because you can't even judge what's hard and what's not. I'll give you one thing that will ensure that you can at least always win. Because when you're trying to do a long-term practice, or when you're trying to do something that is very long-term and difficult, you have to win. You have to rig the game so that you win every day. Because I'll give you an example. When I would go training, like when I would go outside and go to the gym or just go train, I would get into these workouts that, like, as I'm doing the workout, I would be telling myself like, dude, I really, like, this was a bad idea because now I have to top it next time. And this was so hard. I don't think I can do better next time. So in that workout, I was already preparing myself for failing the next time because it's just impossible to keep up the intensity. Now, when you're translating this over to art, when you are not even sure what you should be doing, and then you pick something that you think should be simple, and then you do the whole thing also. So not only do you just pick something and you're not sure how to go about it, but you also decide to do the entire image. Let's say if you're doing a study, then it's a study of the whole image, or it's a study that involves geometry. So you're trying to place things in the right place with value, with color, with the correct edges. That's too many things. You're setting yourself up for failure. That's the same thing as when I was doing the hard workout and thinking to myself while I'm still doing it, hey, this is unsustainable. Like, I wish I didn't go as hard right now because I just don't want to train that hard next time, if nothing else. Because the discipline of doing less, really that translates into everything. Because what I mean by that is that if I want to consistently exercise, I have to make sure that I do just enough so that I can continue on with the rest of my day. Because if I do have a very hard workout, I'll now be mentally fatigued. And I've had messages from people, quite a few, asking about exercise and what they should do, because a lot of people get overtired if they just train even a little bit, even if it doesn't seem to be impressive, right? So we're getting back to the core idea. Even if it's not impressive and it doesn't seem like too much, you still get overtired. And that's where the discipline of doing less comes in. I can train every day, I can exercise every day and then do my work, but I have to be very disciplined when I'm at the gym to make sure I do less And this seems like pretty contrarian. That like, oh, discipline means that you should do everything. Well, discipline means that you should do everything that you're supposed to do. It's actually a good idea to be setting some positive constraints to not do too much. Because, like we said before, if you want to be able to sustain this, if you want to be able to do this long term, you have to be able to win. And you control the game. You make your own schedule. You make your own practice routine. If you want to win, you can win. Just lower the bar. And this doesn't mean that you just make anything go. I'm not saying, lower your standards or do bad work. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that when you're doing anything, especially if you're not sure how to do it, pick a portion of it. Pick a portion. So I have people all the time. If we're doing, let's say, value, and there's then the problem of, putting things in the right place when you're a beginner. Accuracy. Accuracy is an issue. Edges are an issue. Value identification is an issue. Like, can you pick the right lights and darks? Can you identify the contrast ratio? Can you see the bounce light? Can you see the ambient occlusion? Can you see all the things that are happening in the image? And if we're doing value, people might pick a whole entire image and try and render it out. Too complex, too many things to deal with. There's texture, there's lighting, there's local values, there's all these things that are happening. But pick a part of that image. So if you have a whole figure and you haven't done one yet, or even if let's say you're experienced at figures, but you're working at value and it just happens that your study is a figure, then pick a part. Hey dude, do a leg, do an arm. Do the nose over and over and over. It's not necessary that you do the whole entire thing. It's not necessarily better to even do that. When I look at my older studies, like I said, my Jean-Léon Gérôme studies, my studies that I spent like 30, 40 hours on, I've really not improved in texturing, in color, in even the subject matter. Like when I painted Diogenes, I don't necessarily know how to paint dogs any better or figures any better. What I improved at the time and what I practiced was rendering. I just needed more time to learn to render better. And I didn't really improve. So because I painted a figure, if I had the impression now that I'm better at that, no, I am not. And if I had the impression that because there's 3 or 4 dogs in there that I'm better at dogs, no, I am not. I don't understand animal anatomy any better or human anatomy for that case either. I don't understand those better. I was practicing rendering at the time, and that's the one thing I got. So exercising the discipline of doing less here and trying to narrow it down and wrap up the video so it's not too overcomplicated with too many things. And this also ties into people asking me about studies. What's the best study to do? Should I do master studies? Should I do film studies? Should I paint? Should I do it from life? Should I study photographs? What should I do? And the answer to that is that all of those studies can potentially be completely worthless because it all depends on what are you working on? What is the goal? Are you working on value structure? Are you working on anatomy? Are you working on accuracy? What one thing are you trying to improve? And if you're not sure what you're trying to improve and you're just replicating studies, then this is when things become useless. It's a lot of work. But if you're not looking for something, if your brain is not mapping a new pattern, or if you're not showing yourself something that you didn't previously see, if you're not trying to construct something new, it's all about your brain. Studies and what's most effective, it's all about what you're looking for. And if you look for nothing, even if you put in a lot of work, you'll get nothing at the end of it because your brain just cannot extract info if there is no focus. You really have to set something. And this is again the discipline of doing less. Hey, you know what? I want to be a great figure artist and concept designer, and I want to do tech, and I want to do characters, and I want to do creatures, and I want to do painting, and I want to do everything. That's cool. That's admirable. Like we said before, that's great that you want to do so much work. Pick one to start with though. Pick one to start with. And if you're a complete beginner and you've picked one, now break that down into 100,000 pieces and just execute on one. Pick the first one and do that. And do it, improve it. Then move on to the next piece. Then improve that, move on to the next piece. Then layer those together, practice them together, move on to the next piece. Always have something you're looking for. The discipline of doing less means that you are rigging the game so that you can win, so that you're looking forward to your next practice. Because if you're always losing, if it's always difficult, if it's like that workout that I talked about, and the next one is even harder, and the one after that has to be harder than those, that's a setup for failure. And my practice sessions didn't go on for very long. Like those ways of exercising, they just were not sustainable and they didn't last for too long. I actually have much better results now going every day, but doing just a little bit. And a little bit doesn't mean that you're actually not doing work. It means that if you identify what is too much, so if I don't do 15 reps, if I just do 1 rep with heavier weight, if I just do that and I don't really overdo it on any one set, then I can increase my strength, I can increase my muscle, I can do all that stuff. And I'm not really overtired by the time I'm done it. So the discipline, it goes hand in hand with always trying to identify what's effective. Even the discipline of doing less is difficult. You can't just do less. You have to know what to do less of and what to do more of and what's important. It relies on your ability to figure out what's important, what's not important, and to really be conscious about what you're doing, to constantly be trying to evaluate things and weigh them one against the other, and as much as possible, pick the one that works and abandon the one that doesn't. No simple answer, right? Sorry, none of these things are simple. They're complex, but complexity is basically simplicity interwoven together. So discipline of doing less, start with one thing. Figure out where you want to go, break that down, and if you look at something impressive and if you think it'll be easy, pick a corner of it or pick a piece of it and do that first so that you can actually not have the stress of finishing the whole thing, but you can really just focus and not have pressure so that you can extract the info that you're looking for. And you're not pressured to have to complete all this work, because doing the whole thing often entails just way too many simultaneous tasks that you have to perform. And that's just not a good idea for your brain, because you will very easily get overwhelmed. And once your prefrontal cortex shuts down, once you get stressed out and you get all cortisol-y and you start wanting to maybe play some music or run away from your study or do something else. And this is how you will get into the second expedition. You'll be on the crew that does things when it's going well, and then when things are not going so well, doesn't do as much, but then they feel good about it because they know they did a lot yesterday, so today is okay. First expedition managed to do a lot better. They actually succeeded, and by a huge margin. They were much faster. So discipline of doing less. Do less, be consistent with it, identify what it is that you're working on, and be deliberate with your studies, with your work, with your exercise. Make everything fit together. I go and exercise every day, wrapping up, because it just helps my brain. It's not that I'm obsessed or like feel like going. I don't feel like going. I hate going. I don't want to go now. It's raining. It sucks. I have to go as soon as I'm done with the video. But I know that if I don't go, I know my chemistry. I know that I'll feel like crap and I'll be lazy and I won't be able to focus and my entire day will suffer. So if I save the hour by not going, I'm really going to waste the whole day. It's time to wrap up, I think. Thank you very much, guys, for all your amazing comments that you dropped on the last video, which if I post this at the right time, it should be about quitting my job. Thank you for all the support, all the suggestions. People are sending me links to Patreon saying, just do it. And I haven't done it. I'm an idiot. I have too many things I'm doing and I'm not exercising the discipline of doing less. But thank you guys so much for the support. I really appreciate all your comments. And there was a comment saying about how cool it is that so many like-minded people are here. It definitely makes me feel great to be a part of something like this. And I have been away for a little while. Work always takes over because I'm trying to improve. Because if If my work isn't good enough and I'm really not a good teacher, then I really shouldn't be teaching. So that's why I always go back and err on the side of doing more work. But I really want to be able to help, and I really want to not forget about that. So that's why I'm trying to come back here more. Please drop me some comments and let me know what you struggle with, so you give me some good ideas about future videos. Don't be shy. Whatever problem it is you have, 1,000 other people will have as well. It'll help me make things that are actually useful for you and not just try and come up with a topic that I think is interesting. So please drop me some comments. Let me know what you struggle with. Thank you so much for the support, for the amazing comments, for all the people that have stuck with me, who, again, I apologize to for disappearing so often. You make it much easier and more worthwhile to do everything that I do. Thank you very much. Discipline to do less. It's time to wrap up and go get the next small thing done. Win the game. You're the one who designed it. Why would you make a shitty game that's kicking your ass? Make a cool game. 15-minute win. Small step today, but win. Look forward to it for tomorrow. Punish yourself too much, you'll never want to do it again. But set it up so that, dude, you're a badass for just walking for 3.5 minutes. Those 10 burpees you did, dude, I've never seen anything like that before. You look forward to the next set. Otherwise, oh, that was pathetic. You just walked for 3 minutes. That's your exercise for the day? Really? You feel like, would you want to do that? Would you look forward to the next time that you do something so that you say, oh, that wasn't good enough? That wasn't a good idea. That sucked. You're not really very good at this, are you? Why would you do that? Anyway, goodbye. Thank you. And I'll see you soon.